We survived.
Happy Easter
Happy Easter
season.
Yeah, don't forget. We got to pause, though, before you say Happy Easter season. That's right.
Yeah,
Just like the
yeah.
video.
Just like the video. They tell a story.
They do. It does tell a story. Yeah, and you'll see it on the way out at the end here. But, yeah, we survived.
Yeah.
Holy Week for pastors and musicians is a heavy, heavy week.
It is.
You go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, I was just laying low and tired enough that I didn't even know what to do with myself. Just like, should I do something? I don't know. Should I do something? Maybe I should do something.
Did you get anything done? Did you get the floors mopped?
I did. I washed the floors. I washed them at 4:30 yesterday.
That counts. Yeah, it doesn't matter what time you do it.
It took me
counts.
all day to get to that point where I could get up and wash the floors.
Yeah.
So I did. I got the floors washed. So we're good.
Yeah. My son's fourth grade teacher, we're kind of friends with that family.
You washed her floors?
Well, she did let me know that she could use another chaperone for the kids' field trip yesterday. So
Oh, okay.
got to go on their field trip.
Where did they go?
They went to the Springs
I
Preserve.
could have guessed that. You know, I mean, if you're in Las Vegas and there's a field trip, where are you going? You're going to the Springs Preserve. I could have guessed that.
So when I was a kid, I remember, because I mean, I kind of lived in the middle of a bunch
Nowhere.
of cornfields,
Yeah.
right? And so if we
Yeah.
were going on a field trip, it's like an all-day field trip, and everybody would bring an ice cream bucket where
Yeah.
you pack your lunch in
Lunch
that, and then
in.
it would all stack in the bottom of the bus,
Yeah, right,
And then
right,
we
yeah.
drive off 2 hours to go to a zoo or
Yeah,
go to
the Minneapolis Zoo or
whatever. Yeah.
The Vikings game.
We did not go to any Vikings games. But there they have field trips just half a day.
Yeah.
Buses have to be back ready to go out by like
It's no big deal.
mid-afternoon.
Right?
again.
No big
So,
deal. Just in and out and
just
back.
in and out.
Well, and
no whole day
like
field trips.
you, we in Western Illinois we would do a spring field trip, and often it was 3 hours to get to
know.
the
You're-
Lincoln site. You know, so we'd have to drive downstate, down to Springfield, and go to the Lincoln sites.
Yeah, I know.
You
So I
know.
remember getting to school at like 7 a.m. and then
Right.
getting home at like 7 p.m.
That's right.
That
That's
was
right.
what a field trip was.
Because we would go to
Yeah.
the little, and there's it's like a state park, New Salem, which is like the little town outside of Springfield that he grew up in, but it isn't even a town. It's just like a state park with wood, ramshackle buildings, like
log cabins.
yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And
Gotta have
and,
a log cabin.
And then we would drive into Springfield, where you would not only do the old state capitol, because the old state capitol is still there, and there's the new one, but you go to the old one that Lincoln worked in,
Okay.
and then you'd go to Lincoln's home, which is still there. There's actually a whole street in Springfield,
Really?
Illinois.
I've not been to
And-
this part. Yeah. So,
I wouldn't necessarily take a special trip for that, but
but you've taken a couple hour, 3-hour trips
well,
there.
there's no
you
choice.
know?
You field trip or stay at school. You're going on the field trip. And there's a whole city block in Springfield that is still original homes, and including Lincoln's home and his law office. And then you'd always go to the Lincoln tomb.
Yeah.
And the thing about the Lincoln's tomb is he was buried in like 2 different places before they like made this monument to him. And because there were like people trying to grave rob and all that kind of stuff, like 100 years ago, or 100.
Not you.
Not me personally, right?
Yeah.
That they finally had to like encase him in concrete just to keep the grave robbers. But here's the interesting thing. You can look this up online. You go into Lincoln's tomb, and it's this huge thing, and it's a circle. So you go in one way and you kind of circle around, and at the back of the circle is where his tomb area is. And then but there's like pictures on the walls. But as you walk in, there's a bust of Lincoln, like twice the size of my head, and my head's big.
Wearing a hat or?
Nope, just
okay.
Lincoln. Au natural,
Okay.
just the head. But the fact is that people over the years have touched his nose for good luck.
Okay.
So
Which you can
right,
imagine
you
that.
know, lucky
Yeah.
lucky penny,
You're
right?
trying to-
A lucky
yeah.
Lincoln, right?
his nose.
So yeah, right. So it's a this brass or bronze statue, whatever it is, this bust, and his nose is super shiny because everybody is like petted
Yeah.
Lincoln's nose
Yeah.
to go in.
Super shiny.
And the answer that's burning in your heart right now is yes, I've touched Lincoln's nose.
You have touched his
I have
nose.
touched his nose.
Okay.
So
We did not touch Lincoln's nose on our field trip.
no.
They have an area called Boomtown up at the Springs Preserve,
Yep.
though, where you can visit some historical
Yeah.
buildings. And it's kind of interesting because if you go in there with a number of fourth graders, those little buildings become very loud
Really quickly.
really quickly. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
acoustics in there.
And that's
will
like the little
become
town,
loud
right? That's
very
the little
fast.
town part of it.
Yes,
I did the little semi train ride where they take you out
You got on the train, huh?
through the old springs that dried up because
Yeah.
we did not manage our resources well here in Las Vegas. And then you circle around and then you end up in like the
Boomtown.
And then I also, and I've only been once, I got to go into the museum, the Natural History Museum there on the campus there too. So
Yep.
yeah. So I've done a few things, but I need to explore it more. So
Yep.
But I know it's a rite of passage. If you grew up in Las Vegas, you go to
Yeah.
the Springs Preserve as a
Well,
field
if you
trip.
want me to go with you and remind
Could
you
you?
not to bang on the glass of the animals,
I
I
would
can do
love
that for
that.
you. Yeah.
I would love that. So I will make sure to ask you to accompany Rachel and I.
Yes. No bothering the black
right.
widow spiders.
Yeah, leave them alone.
Leave them alone.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with black. We got enough of them around here that I don't need to
Wake them up.
wake them up. Yeah.
Wake up.
Once in a great while, we have to get rid of them around the building, but not in the building.
Yeah.
Once in a great while, we'll see one. The last time I saw
around, right?
Yeah, the last time I saw one was in the spot that your wife loves to take photographs of people. The little blue
Yes.
area
Yes.
outside.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That there's a.
Little up underneath there.
Yeah.
there
There's
was-
the little crack that
Yeah.
they like to sneak into.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What was your favorite part of Holy Week?
My favorite part of Holy Week.
Remember,
it
before
is-
you answer, Philip is silently judging you.
He's silently judging. I know. So honestly, I will say, yeah, the Easter medley on Easter morning, it's pretty hard to beat that. Like
Yeah.
I love those
Yeah.
those big wonderful moments and all the people, like the energy of all the people.
Yeah.
In that, but I will say as kind of that would be my answer. But then as kind of a greater element, I love how unique each one of the services were.
They
I
were
love
all
something
different.
about that
They were
like
all
you come on
different.
Monday, Thursday, and you got one totally different experience than Good Friday, and that was again just an incredibly moving experience. And then you get to Saturday, you get to Sunday, and even sunrise worship versus
Yeah.
9:30, 11.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciated following the Easter from Palm Sunday forward.
Doing the story.
Living out that story because in some ways you could just say it was Easter service because it was one service from
Yeah,
Monday,
it
Thursday
was,
onward.
yeah.
We just did one service.
That's
you could
right.
argue that, and so and I love living that out to completion in
Yeah.
that sense. So that would also be something
That's good.
I really value that. So
Yeah.
yes. What about you?
Well, I affirm the whole. I had a different experience Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I value that a lot. But I'm going to make the distinguishing kind of mark between working and not working. So Thursday night, I helped with communion. I did some prayers,
Yeah.
but I didn't have to preach.
Right.
So that's about as close to being off as one gets
Yeah.
as a pastor, right?
Yeah.
And so Thursday night I could let down a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
as we're gearing up. So I was able to absorb and not have to worry about, when am I doing this or what am I thinking about saying when I get up there? Like Thursday night I was able to worship because I just didn't have as many responsibilities, right? And so entering into the 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, 3 days, that allowed me to kind of get into the moment.
Yeah.
And of course, I really appreciated Robbie, Carolyn, and Ashley's harmonies singing.
This is phenomenal.
And
I mean, 'cause
Lin-
and that's what I love about each one of those services.
And Lindsay
They each brought their
Springer
A game. Yeah.
playing cello for us. It was really for me, because I wasn't working as much, allowed me to really enter into it. The one thing about Good Friday, technically speaking, I'm really glad I remembered to turn off the air conditioning.
We had candles this year.
So if you weren't
Yeah.
in the know, what we learned last year on Good Friday at 6 o'clock is if the air conditioning is on in any way, shape, or form, the air blows onto the place where we extinguish candles. It's like the perfect place for wind. And it will cause those candles to burn down at an excessive rate of speed. We remembered to turn it off at noon last year. 6 o'clock got overlooked, and we were wondering, will they get extinguished first or will they burn out first? That's how fast they were burning.
They were.
There
going
was
down
wax
fast.
everywhere, and
You
they were
were-
just like, and we just looked at it and went,
Yeah,
oh, no.
you were preaching double time.
Yeah, I gotta speed
Yeah,
this thing
it
up.
was-
Yep.
whew.
Yep.
Choir had to pick up the pace.
Yep. Let's cut a verse out of that song. We got to extinguish a candle before it burns out, right?
Yeah.
And I really loved The Day He Wore My Crown. Dana sang that.
Yeah.
And then I also paid special attention to, and you can go back and watch any of these if you want, they're online. The song about being in the garden on Good Friday, underneath the palms or beneath the trees. And I paid special attention to that this year because right before we went in to worship, or maybe it was earlier in the week, Keith said, "That's my favorite." And when he said that, I was like, I need to spend more time in that song. And it is a really beautiful. They're all beautiful, but that one came to a deeper appreciation because, Keith Thompson's like E.F. Hutton. When he speaks, people listen. Because sometimes he is a man of few words. So when he says something, you just kind of want to lean in and hear. And since he liked that song, I was like, I'm gonna pay special attention to that, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure though.
and of course Easter, all of it is just big and magnificent and wonderful, and and we were talking about how specifically at 9:30 and 11, which was combined, that we use different genres of music from Beethoven to contemporary at that service, and all of it fit in its place.
And
Like it wasn't like, oh, that doesn't fit. Like it all came together.
And it is, and part of it for me is the experience of feeling the energy in the room, like feeling, so many people coming together, people I haven't seen in quite a while, some of them brand new, and it's just like, and feeling the power of that.
That's right.
In a space.
We
is
and
something
just
pretty
for our
special.
church families watching, we had 7 different folks are interested in membership after attending on Easter. So we had 7 different guests come and say, after experiencing Easter, like, I want to be at this church. And I love that because that means that we aren't just putting on a show, that we're moving people's hearts and that they want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, we want that too, because it means it's drawing people closer to Jesus, which is our prayer every Sunday before we come up to worship. Is we just ask that you open people's hearts to receive what you want to give them this day, right?
Yeah.
And so that happened again on Easter, and very thankful for that. So, and a great audience online, folks worshiping with us, including one of our longtime members, Carol Byer. She moved to Branson, Missouri, and I was looking at all the stats, and guess what? She saw that little dot on the map that said she was in Branson, Missouri, worshiping with us, and anywhere from Georgia to somewhere outside of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We had somebody up in Minnesota, like kind of across the country who had folks watching and tuning in, and how beautiful is that we have the ability to do that. And so I'm glad Easter's once a year because that takes a lot of energy. I love it. I want to
Yeah.
be through all of
It
it,
is
but at the
wonderful.
same time,
Yeah.
it's okay to catch your breath too.
It is.
And,
That it is.
Here's the other thing. If you were with us, maybe you got to go into the fellowship hall and see the new carpeting in the fellowship hall.
That's right.
And we've
So-
started that process. And as we speak right now, the chapel is being recarpeted.
So yes, doing that, and they're going to do some stuff downstairs
Yep,
too.
yep. We were able to do a little bit more because of the generosity. The office bullpen area, not our individual offices, that's going to get some new carpeting, and it was desperately needed. Sunday school's getting new carpeting, and then the craft room where the knitters and the quilters often meet. There's some orange carpeting in there that looks like it has lived multiple lifetimes.
And it may have.
And so that's also getting done. So we're in a process, and just you'll hear it here first if you tune in. Is we probably actually won't get to the sanctuary until June because of all the things that are scheduled in there.
There's just a lot going on in there.
We have a group that is renting our sanctuary to get ready for a cruise ship show. That's a contract, and that is bringing income into the church. We're not kicking them out. Then when they're done, we go right into VBS. Can't do it that week because we're in the sanctuary all week. The following week, by Thursday, we have Synod Assembly here. So we're probably mid-June before we actually have some extended vacancy in the sanctuary. Now, any other year, it's wide open, right? But this year, the signs of life are everywhere, and it's too busy. To do anything. But even the gift shop will get some new carpeting too. So lots of great stuff happening, and that is a beautiful thing, and all because of your generosity has made that happen. So
Yeah, great.
but yeah, just overall, I guess it's what I'd call a satisfying tiredness.
Satisfying tiredness. I like that.
Yeah,
Very good.
That I'm tired, and there's nothing, and this is from a pastor's point of view. There's nothing where I look back and go, I wish we would have done this instead. There's no regrets. There's no like, oh, on second thought, I wish we would have. Like, there's nothing I would have changed. Nothing I would have changed.
Yep.
Oh, other than having Moonlight with us on Good Friday. That's the only. Moonlight's our.
Sometimes
Yeah.
yes.
I saw her on Easter morning, and she does a lot with us, and she knows us really well. I said, I'm so happy to see you. And you know what the first words out of her mouth were? I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier. You remember? You were standing right next to me. I wasn't fishing for that. I just said, oh, I'm so glad you're here. She's like, I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier. So she must have been feeling it, huh, Philip? Not being here on Good Friday. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, there's just really nothing that I go back and I guess if I was going to say one thing, I wish I had more time to talk to everybody.
That's the thing. There were so many people there that you wanted to see and touch base with
And I walk all the aisles and greet as many people as you can, but then there's folks who show up right at 9:30, and once service has begun, we're down front ready to go, right? But tried to catch as many people as I could.
Quite a few people were there before, but
not
still,
everybody.
you're still like
folks come on in
or
after 9:30.
you're in one
or
aisle
11.
and they're filling in the other side, and you just can't go back to every single one. So.
Yep. But other than that, it was just a great weekend. So thank you all for whether watching online or being in person and being a part of that. I think that is just huge. Yeah. Now, of course, today when we get together, it's Tuesday staff meeting. One of the things we always ask is, okay, so what do we want to come back to, and offer up for music? And it was like, well, the choices are so big.
Considering, we could choose
Thursday,
anything from
Friday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And we already made our choices, but but when we were thinking it, I know I was only thinking about Easter morning, but there is even some stuff from Thursday night we could have pulled from too. That just the harmonies and music. But we already made our choices. We're gonna live with our choices, You pick what you pick,
only
and
pick
you
two.
don't throw
Only
a
two
fit.
can make it to the show.
That's right. That's it.
right.
It's very
Only two can make it.
cream of the crop, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to 9:30 and 11. A song that was debuted here about 6 years ago. And so let's take a listen. We'll talk about it when we come back.
I have lived a wonderful life, and yet in all my years, I've never seen a day so dark, a night so full of fears.
The dangers everywhere unseen, and yet so very real. I call upon the Savior for the grace we need to yield.
Jesus, roll the stone away like you did that Easter morn. I am broken, I am shattered. Now my faith is tossed and torn.
Longing in my prayer,
Lift me up and take me where there is soothing in my soul.
there is grace to make me whole. Take me in your arms and hold me near, I pray. Hold me near to the heart of God. Roll the stone away.
Jesus, roll the stone away. Resurrect me to the light.
Take me hand and take me with you through the darkness of this night.
Lift me up as you ascend to a world that knows no end.
Heal my doubt and heal my fear.
Hear the sorrow of my tears.
Let me rise with you and hold me near, I pray.
Hold me near to the heart of God. Roll the stone away.
Isn't it a great song?
It's a wonderful song.
So
It really is.
I was just checking online some of the comments of some of our folks who are watching right now. And I know you're watching because you made comments. And Ann Pettit said, and hi Ann, she remarked, she said, Easter morning 2020 was the first worship service she attended online, doesn't live in state. And
That was her first one that she.
and so Ann, you were writing about this, and yes, she remembers this. That was the day that this song made its debut,
Wow.
and so good memory, and that it was Easter of 2020. We're in the midst of a pandemic. We
I remember
thought
that.
on St. Patrick's Day we'd be open by Easter. And it was May of 21 when we finally got through. And for some of you, we waited through the point that we, as a staff, could get vaccinated, so that we would not be putting our own lives at risk. And
most people had the chance to be vaccinated.
vaccinated,
at that
yeah.
point.
So, but yeah, and you are right. And so, so think about the context of this. I get back to community on Reformation Sunday of 2019, and that was my first Sunday back at community. Preached, had a couple of weeks, then flew back to San Francisco so Rachel could go through her cancer surgery, and she stayed there because that's where her doctors were and all that, and so I flew back and was there, and then came back here for Thanksgiving Eve worship, and then started our fall or winter season, Advent and Christmas. And you start January anew and you think, okay, here we go. And by March we were closed. And it was interesting because up to that point, I'd had very little contact with Keith Thompson. He wasn't on staff, and just kind of his name was, whispered.
He was out there. Oh, he's always out there.
But
Yeah.
his name was whispered in the hallways with
Yes,
reverence.
yes, yeah.
And I was talking to Bruce Ewing, and he said to me, he said, ask Keith about a song for Easter, which is the only time I've ever talked to him about music, in terms of like writing or anything. And I'm still relatively, even though I've been here before, I'm like relatively new, and we're in the midst of an uncharted territory of pandemic. And so one evening he was at church, and I said, hey, I Bruce was saying you write music, and I was, wondering if you have any inspiration about a song for Easter where we feel like we're trapped and we feel like we're locked in. I mean, literally like quarantined. And I said, but because I didn't know how to approach this, I'm like, but I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just like, if there's anything in the hopper up there in your heart and mind, I'm like, we certainly could use something for Easter about us feeling like we're in a tomb, we're trapped. And I said, but that's your creative is your creative is your creative. And this song came out of that. And I'm sure you remember quite a bit of that, Philip, too. And like I said, it was the only time I ever asked him about writing something, and this is what came out of it. And, and you think, wow, what a song. And it's still, I mean, it's not tied to the pandemic, but certainly you think, oh my gosh, there are times, the Easter story is about us being trapped too, right? And so thankful we got to revisit that again this year as well.
Yep.
With Sam and Dana and Bruce and Ann too signing that. So we really appreciate that very much. And one of the highlights for me, and so I was thinking about that very much that theme, and it's all over the New Testament. But so like in the letter that Peter, we have two letters that Peter wrote to the Christian church: 1 Peter, 2 Peter.
1 and 2 Peter.
Yeah, and there's a context where Peter's making this argument that God is in the rescue business. That's what God does, and that's a part of God's nature because of his great love for us. And he's making this argument where he actually talks about the story in Genesis, Lot, Abraham's nephew, and Lot is a faithful person, but he's not a perfect person.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good way to describe
Which you could
Lot.
describe
Yeah.
most of us that
You
way.
could describe most of us that way.
Right. He's not perfect, but he was faithful. Because and if you go, well, what do you mean by that? Because there was a point when Lot and Abraham realized they couldn't like shepherd all their flocks together.
Mm-hmm.
And Abraham gets up on this big rise and he says, "Okay, Lot, we need to separate our flocks, and this is a great view. What area do you want?"
Mm-hmm.
And Lot immediately sees the green land to the south. And he's like, "I want that. Like it's the best land, right?" And Abraham was like, "Okay," like he wasn't like, "Oh, my elderly uncle, I should give him the choice land because he's the head of the family," right? Like no,
Kind of shows
see
what a
that.
person Abraham was too. Like
Right,
he
he
gave him
didn't-
the choice, and he's just like,
That's fine.
for it. Yeah.
So he's down there, and one day he and his family end up in this town called Sodom, and things go sideways. God's going to destroy
Yeah.
Sodom for their lack of hospitality and the way they treat people, and it's an ugly story. And the angels come and rescue Lot and his family.
Mostly.
Mostly. Well, some of that is self-inflicted too, right?
These are wild stories.
Wild
Very
stories.
colorful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Lot's wife decides to that she didn't mind the trouble in Sodom and turns around to look, turns to a pillar of salt.
A pillar of salt.
Yeah.
There you go.
We're not even going to talk about the daughters. We're going to leave that story.
No. If we're not talking about the Song of Solomon, we're not talking about Lot's
that.
daughters.
Yeah, no, we're not. You guys can go back and read that though if you're really interested. You really and don't say we didn't warn you, okay? But Peter's making this argument. Back to
to
the
Peter,
point.
yes.
I'm still in the Bible, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm getting there. 2 Peter chapter 9. So he says, think about God rescuing Lot and his family. And then he writes this in 2 Peter 2, verse 9. He said, "If this is so, then the Lord knows how to rescue godly people from trials."
Yes. And then that's the overall argument. If God
Yeah.
is choosing to rescue people over and over throughout the Bible,
Yep,
then our God is here to rescue us today.
as well.
Yes.
So
I love
it's
that.
not like, well, those are stories of old, and that happened then, but it doesn't happen now, right?
Yes.
And that's the argument that Peter's making. He's like, God's in the rescue business.
Yes.
And, you could argue that the whole passion of Christ was all about rescuing us. Even if, we couldn't see it at the time or come to a realization later, there is a rescue that frees us from being in our own tomb. So roll the stone away.
Yeah, and sometimes we dismiss it because, oh, well, I don't live in biblical times.
Yeah.
That's when Jesus showed
Yeah.
up. But like, this is when God shows up right here and right now.
That's right.
Always,
Yep.
God is showing up.
And if you're looking for it, I mean, it's the same argument that people make about people in the Bible, and they've never read the stories. Well, those were like superstars of faith. They had something I don't know. Moses struggled. Moses said he wasn't qualified. Moses didn't listen to everything that God said. Abraham took things into his own hands about creating a family. I mean, you go on and on, like these people that, if you don't know the stories, you think, oh, they're just like, they're far above and beyond who we are. Like, no, you read the stories, you'll see that they're ordinary folks too. And God got them out of jams as well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I think Peter is right. Like, God's in the rescue business, and he knows how to rescue folks who are struggling, like you, like me, when we feel like we're stuck in the tomb. Now, in Paul's letter to the Galatians, the very first section, and often Paul's letters contain what you would consider a blueprint or a standard type greeting in every letter in the first century. I mean, not necessarily Christian related, but there was kind of a way to open a letter with a greeting.
Yeah, you start with the greeting.
You start with a greeting,
Yep.
and Paul is no exception to this. Obviously, it's flavored with Christian language in the greeting, but it is a standard blueprint. If you looked at letters from across the Roman Empire at that time, there was always like a standard or a regular greeting. Paul adapts one for the Christian community, and
To the church that he's writing to. Yeah.
but he gets to this too, and we come back to this whole theme again.
Yeah. So from Galatians chapter 1, beginning in verse 3. Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ, who gave himself for our sins to rescue us from the present evil age, according to the will of God our Father, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen.
So that word rescue shows up again.
Yeah.
And Paul is saying, you know what? God gave himself in the person of Jesus, and it says the Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm going to keep hammering on this from Palm Sunday. When you see the word Christ, you should think about the word King. That God as King rescues his people from the present evil age. And, you know, I mean, times aren't easy and simple and nice right now either. And we know that we can turn to the one who will rescue us and pull us out of, in some ways, the mire of the ugliness of this age, right? I think it's easy to get caught in all the bad news and all the junk going on and get mired down in that. And we give our mind to what we're focused in on. And it's easy to get consumed with stuff.
Yeah.
And this is a reminder of pull your attention upward of the one who will see us through the hardest times and the ugly times and even the present evil age, as Paul talks about. It's like, okay, so where's my attention? If I'm focused in on that, that's all I'm going to see.
Yeah.
And I need to be thinking about how, thanks be to God, someone was sent to rescue us from that, and we don't have to be in that or participate in that, but we can keep our minds focused in on Jesus. And in some ways, you know, by proxy, like, oh, I want to put all my attention in what we're doing here at Community Lutheran Church, because we are creating a community here of Jesus followers and a place of support and love and inclusivity and welcome, which is at some times at odds with the way people are acting out in the world. And so I'm gonna put myself in an environment that is more focused in on the qualities of the kingdom of God than what I'm seeing on the nightly news.
Always. I mean, and it's so important, and it's so tempting, I could say, to just get caught down the
Rabbit hole.
A rabbit hole.
Yep.
Where pretty soon you're just angry at the world, at
Yep.
everything, and just you're spiraling.
Drawing lines in
Yeah,
the sand and this
yeah.
side and that side.
Exactly.
And it's easy
Exactly.
to do, and we all sometimes can get that way. But I think to myself, I was like, no, I need to put myself in a place that's not doing any of that stuff, and that place is right here. And we're going to be that place that we're going to be real about our struggles, but we also know that we have a God who welcomes all and not just a few.
Yep.
It's not a country club here, and we know that grace is available, which rescues us from horrible mindsets so that we can be a place of growing closer to him.
Yeah.
You know, and so, oh, wait a minute, that's just our mission statement. But that's who
There
we
you go.
are.
That's who we are.
Now I come to the last, and this one's a story. I want to tell you a story, and I didn't realize until today that this song directly relates to this story.
All right.
You know, I've never asked Keith about it. If this story had any bearing on the writing of this song, but I realized today, and I'm very slow because it's now been 5 years, that I'm like, wait a minute, that song is this story.
Okay.
So let me read
Okay.
it to you. Jesus, once deeply moved, came to the tomb, and it was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, Martha said, the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor. He's been there for 4 days. Then Jesus said, did I not tell you if you believed you would see the glory, the perfection of God? So they took away this, they rolled away the stone. Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I'm just praying this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you said. I don't really need to pray. We're in touch, but I'm doing this so everybody else can see that we're, I love that. Like, it's not for us,
Yeah.
We know what we got. We're like this, but, I'm doing this so everybody else around can actually see that we're, one and the same. Like, I love that. When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out with his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, take off the grave clothes and let him go. And I don't know why today it was like, oh, that song is about Lazarus. And guess what? We are all Lazarus at times in our life. That we're in the tomb. And the things that have put us there, the hate, the ugliness, the bad news, which puts us into a place where we just feel, dare I say the word neutered, like we have no power and we have nowhere to go. And we just feel like we're dead on the inside. And we're in the tomb, and Jesus is the one that rolls the stone away, and he says, you got to come out. There's something better.
Something better.
Not that the world's offering. He's like, but I'm better than that. And you've been invited to be a part of that. And and I even like the part of the story is like, come out, and he comes out, but he's still in the grave clothes. Like I think there's a process of kind of breaking out of the junk of this world, that you might hear that voice of Jesus and respond to it, but you still might be hanging on to the old stuff too, like wearing the grave clothes. And the next step of not just responding to the voice, but then saying, I got to remove that death.
Sometimes it takes the church too to
To
remove
help-
those
yeah, right,
grave clothes. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
Take off. He said, take off the grave clothes and let him go. And he said to them, not to him. So in other words, it was the crowd, and that they came and helped. And so it is this process. And of course, spiritual growth is a process, is not only hearing, but then acting on it. And you see that. But I certainly feel when I was thinking about this story today, I'm like, oh, that song and this story go hand in hand. That we all at times are Lazarus, but the tomb is not the last word.
Roll the stone away.
Roll the stone away. So thank you for joining us today, this Tuesday after Easter. And, there's no Lenten service tomorrow. There's, we're back to what we would consider a normal week in our lives.
Once we get to May, which is right around the corner, we'll be starting up Bible study.
Study again and all that kind of stuff. So, so we hope you have a pleasant rest of your day. And God bless you. We love you. And we hope that you reflect on this song a little bit more. But with that, we will say goodbye, and we'll turn it over to Philip Fortenberry.